Welcome to the latest edition of the First State Kopites podcast. This is a big episode. The preseason is now finally over. Liverpool won 3-1 today against Osasuna, and I thought they looked quite good. I've kind of missed a whole bunch of things before we get into it. Podcast for Liverpool fans in Delaware and friends of those Liverpool fans in Delaware. Thanks for listening on your preferred platform. Today, we're really excited to have a brand new guest. We've got Mark, who's a longtime member of the Delaware Supporters Club. So welcome, Mark. And we have Sean and Daz back to help us preview the season. Okay, what did I miss? So, I almost got into it. Preseason ends. Osasuna 3-1. They drew yesterday with Atletico Bilbao 1-1, which other result particularly reflected the game. But I'm going to go around and we're going to have at least one go at this. I think there were a lot of highlights in preseason. Maybe there were some concerning things, but only one that I can think of because I can see the big 26 on my behind me. Sean, I'll start with you. What are you going to take away from preseason? You know, what excitement has it generated in terms of the season? Seeing some of the people in action with plenty of time to practice.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I had to miss one of the preseason games, but I saw the games the last 2 days, most of them anyway. And I think we look really good. I know I haven't read all of it, but Pep Linders has been keeping a blog apparently, and supposedly he's very optimistic. He's been very, very happy with the preseason. Preseason camp's been longer than normal, but it seems like they've sort of meticulously planned a lot of stuff out. And he seems like a detail-oriented guy. So if he's that happy with it, at least the way it comes across, everybody should be excited. I think standouts for me in the preseason have been, in terms of the players, probably Mane, Naby, Konate, I think has looked good. Limited action. We'll see how he is in the season. Matup's looked good. I think Harvey Elliott, the first couple of times he was in that midfield role on the pitch, as you know, I was a little bit skeptical, but it's the impressive thing to me is how much he's grown into that. I feel like in the match yesterday, he looked so much better than the first match where he was playing that role. So to me, that tells me that, obviously they saw something. I knew they must have seen something, but I think it also says maybe he's a quick learner, and he's probably been working hard at that. I think in today's match, I wouldn't say this has necessarily been the case the whole preseason, but I thought Taki Minamino looked great today. I thought he looked really sharp. Bobby obviously scored goals. That second goal got me really excited. That was just the beauty. With the one touch, Taki to Kostas Tsimikas, and then Bobby finished. I didn't get to watch the end of the match too much, so I can't say too much on Henderson, Thiago, like how they looked. I saw a couple of the passes Henderson made look pretty good. You put Ox in the one time goalie made a save. It seems like it's been a long time off because the previous 3 seasons we had, we played Champions League final 2 years in a row, and then the 1920 season ended so late. It just seems like a long time since they've played. So it's been great to see preseason, but I'm more excited to kind of see the actual season get started soon.
So you kind of went through, I think, a lot of the highlights. Do you think Elliott will start against Norwich?
That's a good question. I would guess he would not start, but I think he's definitely going to be in the squad this year. Now, going into the preseason, I wasn't sure if they'd try to loan him out again, but I don't think so at this point. I mean, he's looked really good in the preseason. He's kind of grown into that role. I don't know. I mean, if I had to guess, it's just a wild guess for that starting midfield for that Norwich game. I would guess probably Milner, Naby, and Fab. I think Fab might actually get the start, but it won't surprise me if Elliott starts or comes off the bench in that one. So.
Cool. So Daz, I'll go to you, and I know you have lots of opinions about centre backs. and it kind of feels interesting to me. So you can talk about this or not, but it seems interesting to me that James Pearce has said a few interesting things last couple of days. One of which is he said Elliott's definitely staying with the squad, which sounds like that's news. That might not have been the plan before preseason. The other thing he said is Ben Davies may be available for loan or sale, which am I reading too much into that to think that they're really happy with where Virgil and Gomez are at this point?
I think we said this before. I think Ben Davies was always going to be a quick buck turn. I think that they brought him in. They probably try to hype his value a little bit more than, because they know that he's probably, what did they pay, $2 million for him?
Yeah,
he's right around there. They'll sit on him and they'll probably make a £3-4 million profit off of him. We played what, one half for us, and they had that wonderful Klopp hug, and I think that was all the payment that he's going to receive from us.
Well, he got a token 10 minutes today as well. Actually,
I missed the end of the game because today's been a day.
Yeah, all right.
I saw almost all of it.
Right.
It didn't help that LFC TV kept going in and out on my phone, but that's a story for a different day. I think that I always had a sense that there was, and these were brains bigger than mine, and so I kind of agree with that. That I don't think he was ever really going to get any meaningful time. I thought it was interesting that Phillips has been somewhat quiet. I wonder if that's because there's a deal on the table for him and he's on his way out. I just thought it was interesting that Reece Williams has gotten a lot more look than Nat Phillips has.
Equally, there was no Shaqiri, I don't think, in either game.
No.
Okay.
That's been coming. I think one of the things that's going to get a lot of people giggly and girly is the Klopp's traditionally very bearish about what's going on in the transfer market, and he dropped that pearl yesterday, and I'm sure there was much rejoicing across a lot of Twitter, because if you looked at Twitter yesterday, we lost 1-1. Yeah. And where's the signings? We need signings. I think for me, the highlight, the 30,000 foot view of the highlight is we look good. We look like a team that's rested. We look like a team that's hungry. A lot of the guys that we kind of needed to get some R&R look like they're ready. Mane specifically, he just looks like he's a man possessed. Salah has grown into it. It was good to see Bobby today. I was kind of doing more Bobby things, and you take for granted just how good he is with the ball in his feet in tight spaces. Like he'll do something. It really infuriates. Well, it doesn't infuriate me, but like it kind of makes me a little frustrated. Is that he does all the hard stuff, and then like he tries a little dump ball with the outside of his foot, and he just gives it straight to one of their players after he's held two of them off, beaten another one, and then he just puts it across the middle into someone. But that's a small frustration. It was good to see. He looked like he was ready. Fabinho, I think I agree with Sean. I think that he'll probably get the start. He's just too important to us in that position. And as much as I love Milner and as well as he played, it's not the same. I thought it was interesting to see young Clarkson play there today, and he covered himself in some glory there. I think he did really well. He's not shy. And that's another one of the preseason takeaways from me is like, if some of these kids come good, and I've been guilty of saying like, oh, the kids are all right before, but like this current crop, I think that they get it. They look like Klopp into the way that he integrates them, and he has them play with the first squad. They're not scared. They don't shy. They're not shy. They don't hide, and they're good. They're solid players. So as long as their development continues apace and they kind of grow into themselves a little bit more, I think that the future looks bright for Liverpool Football Club from a youth perspective, which is good to see, because you look at the likes of Chelsea, they just loan most of their kids out, and very few of them see the pitch. Mason Mount is obviously and Tammy Abrams are the obvious exceptions to that rule, but I liked what I saw. I liked what I saw, and I enjoyed watching them. Whereas towards the end of last season, my blood pressure was up, my face was red. Like I enjoyed it, and I think that this year, if we can stay healthy, I think that we will. It'll be a tight race at the top. A lot tighter than it was. I'm not going to go out and say it's ours. It's ours for the taking, because a lot of other teams have made some pretty good moves around us. I'm not too concerned about the lack of signings. I think that the ones that we have made in Jotter, I know that was last season, and Konate, I think that we've filled those holes. I think next year you'll probably find that we'll start bringing like for like replacements, because our guys are getting older and they haven't lost steps, but you do have to consider that players into their early mid 30s, they start to get like the mileage becomes a problem. Yeah. But other than that, I mean, I'm super excited about it, and I don't think that letting Davies go is a bad thing. I always think that it was, like I said, that was a quick buck.
Yeah, I'd like to think there was more to it, but okay, I'll go with that. By the way, the reason Mount and Abraham came back is because they didn't go to Vitesse Arnhem, because I think that's the graveyard for your Chelsea career. There's tons of Chelsea players on loan there. So Mark, take it wherever you want to go. What have you? I know you haven't seen a lot of the games, and just by way of explanation, we went to watch the game together yesterday, and ended up watching it on my iPhone. So we probably didn't have the best perspective of how well it went, but my overall sense is, I don't recall, and I've watched too much preseason football over the last 5 or 6 years, a time when we put out two teams and they both looked really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this preseason's been really good. And, one of the things I think I've been most excited about is seeing Big Verge come back. And I think that's going to be a huge, huge thing when it comes to stability of our center backs, having that leadership back there, knock on wood, having him healthy, that can really kind of set the tone for this season coming up. So seeing him get some minutes in the preseason is honestly one of the things that I've kind of looked forward to the most. So, hopefully him and Matip may have a good pairing going in. I think they'll probably get the start against Norwich. Well, that's one of the things I was really looking forward to. And then, kind of speaking to Bobby getting some goals, it's good to see him back on the score sheet. I know he didn't get a lot of playing time in the Copa this year, but I think maybe that rest will do him well, and he'll kind of come back ready for action this year. But I do think, watching on a cell phone the Bilbao game, it's still great to see them play. It's great to see them back in action. And, just really looking forward to the start of the season. And I know we got a lot of games coming up, so they'll be playing a lot. So hopefully we have the squad, the youngsters will come in. And I think the Klopp definitely has a plan for getting them some time. Talking about Davies, I think, we had the two young center backs got a lot of minutes last year because they needed to, and they were really called upon to kind of help us out in our moment of need. I think they did a good job. So I think from that point of view, we can kind of afford to get rid of Ben and see and rely on them for be like a third, fourth string center back.
I mean, I think Justin was on from New York last week, and he made the point that the squad needs thinning before you can add players. And clearly we have at least, I know my math is probably off here, we have at least 26 players in and around that squad to be able to field two teams like that in two successive days. It feels like something else will happen before the end of the window, maybe than before the start of the season. That's my sort of heavy-handed way of pivoting to the new season. Okay, so really what all I like to do is just reflect on kind of what are our hopes from the season. I know Daz already started down this path, and perhaps some expectations. I think one of the things that has me thinking is, where will 90 points get us? And the reason I stick there is there's only one other team apart from the petrodollar guys who play in Sky Blue who've got 90 points in recent seasons. So I'll throw that into the mix. What are your hopes and expectations, Sean?
I think it'll be a close title race. If you had asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have said it was a 2-horse race between City and us. But if Chelsea comes in and signs Lukaku and Jules Koundé, they might be in there with us, because those are two pretty big name signings that I knew that they would sign some players, but not kind of that caliber, and they're kind of like the exact right pieces that I think that they need actually improve their squad. Lukaku's just a beast up front, and he's a lot to handle. And Kunde, I think, would fit in. I think he's an improvement over Aspilicueta on the right side center back role if that's what they do. So I think it'll be a good title race. But I really like our chances. I mean, if you look at where we were, from about the middle of that 18-19 season through the end of the 19-20 season, we were flying there. We were significantly better than City over that period of time. And it's going to be very, very difficult for us to ever top 19-20. But I think on paper, the squad is actually better, like knock on wood. I mean, we're deeper. We have, good quality kind of throughout. There's been a lot of people criticizing our squad in terms of our depth. And I think somebody said it the other day in the chat. I think our depth is better than I remember it being a very long time. It's just, I think what's happened is last year has really put a lot of people off, and people are kind of forgetting at like just what a fluke a lot of that stuff was last season. Not only was it in the middle of a pandemic, which is still going on, but to a lesser extent, hopefully we'll be able to have fans in the stands all year this year, which we had none of last year. But, we had almost half of our key members of our squad out injured most of the time. And then you had players getting COVID, and, Daz mentioned Mane. I've been extremely impressed with Mane this preseason. And there were a lot of people suspecting different things last year. One of them was, did Mane have long COVID? And I would put it out there like, that I think that's a reasonable theory at this point based on how he's looked so far this preseason, because something was just not right with both him and Trent. And Trent kind of bounced back for the last 3 or 4 months. But, if you remember, Trent got COVID before the season started, and Mane got it a little later, like in October. And I just kind of wonder if it had an impact on those two. Also, our training, and this is another thing that's interesting in terms of like this preseason Pep Blinders stuff. I'm sure that Tuchel and Pep Guardiola, we know a lot about how they train, but I think the way that Klopp and the philosophy that Klopp and Pep bring to the squad, I really do think the pandemic was much more disruptive to the way that we train than a lot of other clubs. They are so focused on this repetitive action. They want the players to not only know what they have to do, they want it to be instinctive in terms of like down to what pass you hit and what spot on the pitch. And it seems like it was just very, very difficult for us to do that, particularly with the new players last year, with Taki and Tsimikas and even Thiago. I'm very optimistic for the season. I think it might take us a little bit to get going, with some players coming back, and there's an international break, and now Robbo's injured, but I like our chances. I personally, I don't really care too much who anybody else signs. Haaland would have been kind of a game changer. Hopefully, he doesn't go to anybody in the Premier League when he comes out. But, yeah, I'm pretty optimistic about the season, and I like our chances to win it. Yeah, so I'm excited to see us go, and I'm expecting us to get, I don't know if I had to pick something. 90 points is a good question. I think it's going to be around there. It might be above that again, to win the league. We'll see. City didn't look too great in the Community Shield, and they haven't looked quite kind of to where they were previously the last 2 seasons now. So maybe 90 points wins it for us. We'll see, but it's going to be around there, I think.
Yeah. So I don't know if you had the benefit of hearing Neil Atkinson, which is always fun, talk about lily-livered Twitter followers. Because essentially what he was talking about were people who are like, oh, Minamino and Origi, that's such a drop-off. Oh, we really, we need players there. And Keita and Chamberlain, always injured, no point in even counting on them. So they sort of discounted like half the people who've had really good pre-seasons. And his take in it was they come out of the blocks flying, and we can get to City at home unbeaten. That's a lot of pressure on Guardiola, given what happened in 2019-20, when, of course, City with crowds were perhaps not quite as good as City without crowds were.
Well, I think that, and there's just like, there's been this negativity that's carried over from last season that, it's not last season anymore. I think we can move on.
Should call the episode that.
I think it's carried over onto Twitter and the transfers. And I just think people are a lot more negative about this team than they should be.
Okay. Thanks for giving us the title of the episode. It's not last season anymore. That's good. That's good. So Daz, what are your hopes and expectations?
My hopes are that we can stay healthy, and my expectation based on that is that we'll be challenging for silverware fairly deep into almost all competitions. Based on exactly what you guys are saying, it's like the squad depth is something to behold. My hope is that Naby continues to develop and play the way he's playing now. I think we saw something different out of Minamino, so I hope he's turned the corner from us. And I hope that the FA grows a set of balls and punishes City, but I have zero expectation around that.
A distraction's fine. I'm good with distracting them. That's
Well, I think it's fair to say that whoever's in charge of FFP is either had a stroke or is dead at the wheel, because it does. I know they said they were going to relax it, but like, this is to the point of sloth. I don't think that they. So that's a different rabbit hole. We're talking about us. I don't know, man. I hope that people understand that, exactly like Sean said, it's like this is a new season, and my hope for them is that, like, once this kicks off and we do as well as I think that we can do based on what I've seen evidence of the preseason, because we haven't played mugs. I remember when we used to trot out Preston and Tranmere, and again, I have apologies to those people, but they're not really on the same level as a lot of the teams that we played. It was top flight and top caliber squads that we played by and large. Granted, some of them were a little lower in the top divisions, but still, you're playing against good competition. And what was heartening to see is we seem to grow into every game, because we haven't started a quote unquote first 11 in any of these games so far. It's been kind of parceled out, for me at least, in terms of what we consider to be our first team. So I honestly believe that once we get up and running, we talked about being unbeaten and winning more than you're tying is important too.
Of course.
I really hope that we turn Anfield back into a fortress again, because if we want to continue that analogy, the walls were breached quite regularly towards the middle part of last season. Granted, there was reasons for that, but I'd like us to see it to turn it into a cauldron again, with now that the fans are back. And you could see today how big of a part that they played. Like, when they got their tails up and the crowd was with them, they just started flying. Yeah. Yeah. And we often take that for granted. And because as of last year we couldn't, because we were forced to see just like how some of the guys were going about it in terms of. And it's no slight on them, but you could see that the effort level was just dropped off just a little bit. And now that 1 or 2% was enough to make a difference in some instances, and you could just see it. But on the opposite side of that, you could see today and yesterday they were all over it. So again, I hope that we don't get lockdown 3 or lockdown 4, whatever it is, and we're back to square one, which as you were saying would benefit City greatly. But I don't know. I've genuinely got a good feeling about this, and it's not like an overwhelming sense of like, yeah, we're going to smash it. It's just that I think that we're going to be that team that we know that we can be, and I almost feel like a sense of satisfaction that it's borderline smugness, and I honestly don't care if we don't go out and get someone. I'm really interested to see what we do with what we've got.
Many ways to go. It's interesting we haven't even mentioned Diogo Jotter. who seems to score in every game he plays in. His celebration yesterday was more emphatic than any of them he scored in the league last year.
Was that baby shark? What was that?
It was the baby shark, yeah.
It looked like the daddy shark thing. Yeah, they did.
It's better than casually walking away, which is what he was doing last year.
Yeah. So on that, Daz, like it's interesting you say that, the tails up thing. There was one play that really stood out there. It was Trent hit a crossfield ball to Robbo, and the crowd was like really into it, and he way over hit the ball. And I thought to myself, like, that's the crowd. Like he got himself up, and he's not used to that, and he overhit the pass. He never does that. Yeah. But you could see it was kind of, that the players were being kind of pushed by it. So it was very cool to see.
I definitely think less injuries, less compressed season, and crowds are to our benefit. Mark, what is your hope and expectations for the next season? I like the whole notion of it's not last season anymore.
I'm definitely looking forward to this season. Want to turn the corner on last season, just go into this season. I think, knock on wood, having fans at the games is going to really, really play a huge part, and they're really going to push the team forward. And my expectation is that, the team is going to feed off the crowd, in those tough games. I think there's a lot of good teams in the league, and it's going to be a fight. I don't think anyone's going to run away with it, no matter who it is. Paul, you said 90 points. I think 90 points wins the league this year. I think that's what it's going to be. So, it's going to be ultra competitive at the top. So I think that, we definitely need to get off to a flying start. That being said, my hopes, expectations, I definitely hope that we're up there challenging for the title as I think that squad deserves to be. We have the squad to do it. And I think with the fans behind us, we'll be able to get that done. I'm really looking forward to see how Thiago kind of comes in, and after kind of a little bit of time under his belt, seeing his contributions to the team in the midfield, I think can really help open up that front three to back to where we know that they can be. And I think that, one of the challenges we might face this year is kind of that Wijnaldum-sized hole in the midfield. So I think that's going to be really key to see how we kind of maneuver around that. Is it going to be, do we put Fabinho in midfield a little more? Is it going to be a youngster? Like, is it going to be, maybe Jones steps up, did really well last year, and he gets some more time in the midfield. Elliott, maybe he gets more time in the midfield. So I think that, this year I definitely really am hoping and really excited to see some of the youngsters kind of come up and, put their name in the team. Give Klopp that dilemma of, who should he choose for those big games? Yeah. And there's going to be a lot of games, like you said, we're going to be in a lot of competitions. I expect us to be putting forth lineups every game that we're going to go out to win. I don't want to see, half effort. I want to see us challenging for the FA Cup, for the League Cup, for the Champions League, for the league. I think that we have the squad to do it, and the depth is going to be really important. Getting some of that rotation in, giving guys a day off, half a game, right? Just getting those squad rotated so we can have guys be fresh, not only for all the competitions we're going to be in, but also for the length of the season with all the games that we're going to be playing.
Yeah. I did see it. It's funny. The only time I think about Wijnaldum is when I see a tweet about us missing somebody in midfield, because I've certainly not felt like that in any of the games. But I did see a tweet about somebody suggesting Messi might be quite good for the League Cup, might help us out there. Because obviously he won't get in the first 11. Okay, it's time for maybe some predictions, and it doesn't have to be like we're going to get 94 points and finish first. Just things that you expect to see this season. Should I start off? I'm going to regret saying this, but in Solskjaer's time managing Manchester United, he still hasn't beaten 2 points per game on average, like for the whole time he's been there. And even with the addition of Sancho and Varane, which for various reasons, I'm not sure how well he's going to, they would have to improve incredibly to get close to 90 points. So my prediction is Manchester United will not get 90 points. Fingers crossed for those listening on audio. Sean, what are you going to go with?
The first one I'll go with is that I think Jack Grealish is going to be a massive flop. I think and I'm not even just saying that, because of whatever, but if you look at the players who have been bought for a lot of money who have never played in the Champions League, they're almost always flops. I mean, I think the highest priced one that's probably been a success, I looked at this list, was Bobby Firmino. They're often flops. I think he's the most expensive player in the Premier League now, and he's also getting paid extremely high wages. And I don't know. I it's Pep, so maybe he'll figure it out, but I just don't really see how he fits into their squad. And from my perspective, they have a lot of better players in their squad. So if the expectation is that he's going to come in and, kind of be that catalyst, that new kind of playmaker, I just, I'm skeptical that that'll happen or that'll come together well.
Okay, tell me, that's a bolder prediction than mine. Just saying.
Well, and then the other one I'll say is that I won't go too far, but I think Thiago is going to have a hell of a season. I think we're going to see the real Thiago this year. We kind of started to see it towards the end of last season, the last 10 games. But I don't think we really saw the type of player he is for the full season last year, and I'm excited about that. So.
Okay, Daz, beat that.
Well, predictions. My prediction is that Leeds gets into European competition this year.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, you have to remember now, only down to like 15th position gets into
top 7 or so. Still, yeah, I could see that. Yeah, they're a good team.
So you're that's a success if they end up in that third tier competition.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lithuania with you.
Okay.
I don't know. I like the way that they play. I did enjoy watching them sneakily. Like, I've always had a really dark, angry place in my heart for Leeds, and this year kind of like they blew away those storm clouds for me. Like, I just enjoyed the way that they played. They stuck to their task, and everyone said, "Oh, they're playing that hard at that tempo at this level, they're going to burn out," and they proved everybody wrong. It's just I think that they have a good shot at making European competition this year.
I find it hard not to love Bielsa, by the way, but
yeah,
I just block him out. But I like your squad. You can stay.
All right.
Another prediction is I think that City finishes in third.
Ooh.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right.
And like I know this is why Hytham said, like, God bless you, Hytham, wherever you are, that Daz makes better predictions. I really don't. I really, really don't. My predictions are like probably 30% at best. So I just like to fling stuff against the wall and see what sticks. And right now, probably nothing's going to stick. But those are the two that I'm going to go with. I think that Jotter gets into the 20s. I think that he bags. Say if he stays healthy, I think he gets into the 20s in all competitions.
I think that's a good shout, actually. Yeah. What? So I
1 and 3.
I should have gone back to our show actually from a year ago and see what nonsense we were spouting about. See how close this was. But one thing I would say before I go to you, Mark, is I don't know if you saw the Guardian had a whole piece about like they had a fan of each team who was a writer talking about their season, and one of the things they said was they had to predict the top 4, and 6 of the 20 didn't have Liverpool in the top 4, and Everton were one of them, so that's obvious why. But it's like, are they really underestimating us that much? Wisely, Wolves and Newcastle had Liverpool winning the league, along with the guy who wrote about Liverpool, of course. But
I think a lot of those predictions are based on the shiny new things that people bring in, and I think that's a lot of that's got to do. It's positions based on how well that you're perceived to have done in the transfer market. And as Sean was saying, and this is something we did talk about in the thread. Yes, for those of you that are listening, we do have a thread, and we spout even more wham than we do on this. But
especially me,
I don't get involved.
It's a dark place. We'll save you. We'll save you from it. I think a lot of we were saying that about Grealish. It's just like, because he's one of those guys that needs to be the linchpin in a team, and he's just going to be another guy and a team that's amazingly packed with unbelievable talent that plays the way that Guardiola wants to play. It depends on whether or not he decides that he wants to play Guardiola ball, and he potentially has a shot. But if he doesn't, and he's like, well, I'm Billy Big Bollocks, I don't think he's got much of a shot.
Yeah, it is interesting to me, and let's go to Mark next. That Guardiola said that 4 of the squad wants to leave, including Bernardo Silva, who I know is not our favorite person, but I thought that was a bit weird, announcing that to everybody that Bernardo Silva is available for cup price deal, because that's what it sounds like, right?
I almost guarantee you that Kevin De Bruyne was one of them.
No, he wanted to sign Grealish. It was in all the papers. No.
What, Reddit? The Chive?
It was the Manchester City correspondent on The Athletic said it.
Of course it was.
So Mark, any predictions for the season?
Yeah. So I think going on a limb here, some non-Liverpool predictions here. I think Arteta is going to struggle with Arsenal, and I don't know if he makes it through the year. I think that could be, he could be one of the managers if they don't get off to a good start. You know, Arsenal hasn't been in Europe for the first time since the mid-90s this year. So I think they have a lot kind of riding on this year to get back to where, you know, they think they should be. I don't think they have the squad for it this year, but I do think it's going to be challenging for Arsenal and Arteta to get top 4 this year.
Yeah. And the round of Arsenal Champions League is that needed badly, right? Someone needs someone to kick around in the last 16.
And then I guess, you know, I was thinking about this when, you know, I saw Rafa go to Everton. I think Everton's going to struggle this year, even with Rafa. I just don't know if they have the squad, and even if the fans are going to buy in, or if the fans are going to make it difficult for the team. So I think they could be in for a really interesting year to see how that support really works with having Rafa being the manager there.
So when's that? Do we know when the first derby is? Because I wonder if he's going to make it that far. Oh, well, anyway.
I think there's one in November. I don't know the exact date. I don't know if that's the first one. I'm guessing it is.
November 30th.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Could be interesting. They lost 4-0 against United in a preseason friendly. And the good news was nobody booed Rafa. That was what I read. Don't know if any of the fans were there. Okay. All right. So a whole load of predictions. I'm sure they're all wrong, but we'll check back in this time next year. Maybe we'll check back in. So one quick final round. One thing that caught your eye this week that may or may not have been Liverpool related. And what absolutely kind of weird thing that I noticed today was that Pep Linders was not sitting next to Jurgen Klopp. And it was like, is that how they usually sit? Because Peter, whatever his name is, was sat between them. Anyway, I thought that was a bit weird. I thought Pep and Jurgen were like joined at the hip.
Might have to have something to do with the table tennis tourney. I wonder if there's some potential fallout from the table tennis tourney that they all played in.
Well, obviously we'll keep an eye on this as the season goes on. Sean.
So we're going to go to transfers. Finally, we haven't done this in a while. So I still think we're going to buy 2 more players. I'm holding out hope. I think we'll buy a midfielder and another forward. And there was a rumor this week. There's been so many crazy rumors, it's hard to keep track. But this one, I don't know, for some reason, this one sticks out to me as a reasonable one. We've been closely linked with Saul, and I've seen a lot of stuff even saying that the Saul deal is done, and we just need to kind of sell some non-homegrown players to make it to finalize it. But we were linked with this young player. I'm going to butcher his name, Aurélien Tchouameni. He plays for Monaco. He's 21. He's a defensive midfielder, but apparently he's very highly rated. He was actually linked with Chelsea, but he's a lot cheaper than Saul. He's the quoted transfer fee was around like 25 million, and would be on much lower wages. So just something about that hits me as a more of kind of an FSG type move. He also plays the same position as Fabinho, so he would the idea would be to deputize Fabinho there. So
Piers said his wages are way too high for Liverpool.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's, so anyway, so that's one to keep an eye out for, I guess. But
Sean, you're ruining my message here, which is about follow us on Twitter. We don't retweet any of the nonsense from non-credible sources. Fabrizio Romano.
It's been a while. It's been a while since we've talked any transfer nonsense. We got to do it before the season starts.
Yeah. All right. Daz, something you saw this week.
I think it might be something that we've all noted, but it's worth bringing back up. Is how come every no-name brand goalkeeper seems to have an absolute blinder against us? The last few goalkeepers have played standing on their heads. That should have been. It could easily have been 5 today. It could have been 5 yesterday.
Yeah.
And I guarantee they go back in the first game of the season. They ship 4 or 5 apiece.
I was saying the Osasuna apparently won all of their preseason games before today.
Maybe we made it look surprisingly easy. Yeah. We just waltzed through them at the first half of the first half. Yeah, almost at will.
Maybe the goalie's good is my only point.
Or maybe Bilbao's better than we think. Bilbao was tough. Yes, I thought for us to break down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so what else? Something else I noticed was Messi's tears.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't think I've ever seen him cry before. Even as many things as he's won, I haven't followed. It's not like I've followed his bowel movements like some people do, but then again, I'm not sure that's tear worthy. But although I've taken some that are. I'd never seen him cry before. And again, you go on Twitter and such a cynical, nasty place, crocodile tears, or he could have stayed, you should have taken the pay cut, he could have played for free, he's a multimillionaire, blah 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 blah. But yeah, a long story, even longer. I've never seen him cry.
Yeah.
What if you get kicked in the bollocks if he even cries?
You look close to tears that night at Anfield. That's the only thing I'd say.
Yeah. I think he was too shell-shocked to cry.
Especially when that guy ran on the pitch and flicked him off, right in his face.
Yeah. Stay classy, Liverpool.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Mark. Just any random stuff you saw this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think we want to talk about Manchester City and financial fair play. How is PSG even going to get all of their signings? And what's going to happen there if they're going to who knows how much Ramos is going to get paid? Who knows how much? I think Wijnaldum's on a lot. Obviously, Mbappe's on a lot. Neymar's on a lot, and then you add Messi to that. I mean, financial fair play. Are they really making that type of revenue? And at PSG, their broadcast deals can't be that high. Who knows how they're doing their sponsorships, air quotes, and how that's kind of flooding the money. But I think that's going to be. Those are one of the things I noticed. Everyone. We always talk about joking about Twitter. Everyone's like, oh my God, what a great window they had, because they didn't spend any money on transfer fees, yet they signed all these people on a free. And it's just but their wages are probably just through the roof, and who knows how they're cooking the books to get that under control.
Yep.
Right.
They say, World Cup, bitches, we do what we want.
Pretty much.
Everyone always overlooks the wages, and that's obviously a much bigger part of the budget.
Yeah, I feel like we could get into a lot of trouble even talking about this, but it does seem strange. It certainly does. How they could add all those people. Yeah. Well, I'm sure UEFA's got their eye on it. Let's leave it there.
Sure, they're doing hard investigation into this.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, they've got Inspector Gadget on it as we speak.
They got an inside man. Isn't one of
no, don't go there. So, we're a non-profit. We have no money. No, don't sue us. Okay. These are the random opinions of people who know nothing about football. We'll leave it there. Mark, thank you for joining us for the first time. Hopefully it won't be the last. Sean, Daz, as always, it's a pleasure. Do wish we hadn't had the last 2 minutes, but There we go. If you want, if presumably you're watching us on a podcast, but please like us, comment. All of that stuff drives people to our site, and we will see you next week after. Well, we'll hear you next week if you're listening on audio after Liverpool have played Norwich at Carrow Road for the first game of the season.
Bring back Suarez.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully
Just for that
someone
game. Just for that game.
Yeah, he'll get like 5 goals that game.
Hopefully someone will play that role.